The Timberwolves come back from 18 down in the third quarter to beat the Toronto Raptors on the road on trade deadline eve. We'll talk about ant heroics down the stretch and some other really heroic performances in the comeback next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves show, as mentioned, and it is trade deadline day today. It's also a victory Thursday. It's the post-game pod following the Wolves win in Toronto Wednesday night. We're going to talk primarily, I'll say 85% of the show today is focused on post-game pod for the Raptors game, but the kind of the shadow of the trade deadline, if you will, was hanging over this game, the entirety of it, really. And the Raptors had made a trade earlier on Wednesday, but really the first, call it 2.5, almost full 3 quarters, it hung over the Wolves as they got out to a terrible start. The defense was horrific. Virtually every player except Anthony Edwards has been, it's reported that everybody's on the table except for Anthony Edwards in a potential Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. So it's impossible to evaluate this game without the context of the again, the shadow is the best way to say it, I think, hanging over the team with the trade deadline tomorrow, today, whenever you're listening to this. So we'll evaluate the game here, and if a trade does not happen, well, either way, I'm gonna have a bit of a soapbox to get on tomorrow on the show about some of the discourse surrounding this Giannis trade and suddenly the vitriol. You know, Chris Finch always gets it, fair or unfair, but directed at Tim Connolly. So we'll maybe talk a little bit about that today. But I want to start with what was so impressive about the Timberwolves comeback. We'll also talk about what some of the problems were. We'll do that today. We'll close with individual studs and duds, as always. First, a big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. Quick reminder, we do live postcasts after every game. So if you missed it last night following Wolves Raptors, check it out. Jack and Luke do a great job, as always, live on YouTube, and then also on this audio feed breaking down the game immediately afterwards. And also, I'm going to start having more frequent 10-minute mini bonus episodes periodically, pretty close to daily. I mean, this show is a 30-minute show Monday through Friday, plus the postcast, plus now we're going to do some of these bonus episodes. So pay attention to that. I posted one yesterday. That's myself and Jack, the end of our conversation about Giannis on yesterday's show, where he gave his prediction. I gave mine on whether or not Giannis is traded, what the odds of that are. All right. So in this game, Wolves Raptors, obviously, trade deadline hanging over everybody. The Raptors had just traded Ochai Agbaji earlier in the day. The Timberwolves, it's been rumored everyone's on the table in a Giannis trade, and there's all kinds of other, the guys most frequently mentioned are Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle as players who would be moved in a deal. That's outside of Rob Dillingham, who I feel like is going to be moved, Giannis trade or not, on Thursday. So it's human nature for this thing to impact the team. And frankly, the way that they played in the first quarter, I didn't think the Wolves would win this game before they got down double digits. And then by the time they were down 13 at halftime, and very quickly in the third quarter, they were down 18. I thought it was over. Like, this team oftentimes will get down to bad teams, come back and win or make it interesting against a good team. And the Raptors are a good team without Jakob Poeltl, yes, but otherwise pretty much full strength and a good team on the road. They hadn't won in Toronto in like 20 years or whatever it was. I thought it was over. I didn't think they'd have the ability to get back in it, but they did. And it was late third, really early fourth quarter, where a lot of that turned on its head. And I want to start there, and then we'll go backwards and talk about some of the issues in the first half, because it is a lot of the same issues. And I think we can blame the trade deadline for part of it, even though they're ongoing issues that have existed all season. So it's not a complete free pass. But I want to talk about the good stuff first today, because Anthony Edwards down the stretch was phenomenal. Rewinding just a little, when he was off the floor in the early stages of the fourth quarter, that's when a lot of this comeback materialized. It was Naz Reid. It was Donte DiVincenzo. It was, I believe, Rudy Gobert was on the floor for most of it. Bones Highland was phenomenal in this game. they were the ones that got this thing from mid double figures. I think it was 10 going to the fourth quarter, but it was 18 early in the third. I mean, it was 13 at halftime. The Wolves come out at halftime. The Raptors score a quick 5. They get a 3 from Emmanuel quickly, a huge dunk by Colin Murray-Boyles, and all of a sudden it's an 18-point game, and it feels like this thing's all but over. DiVincenzo hits a long 3, and then from that point, like, DiVincenzo actually hit consecutive 3s. And then, this is with Ant on the floor, and it at least stabilizes a little bit in the 10 to 12 to 14-point deficit range. But with Ant off the floor early in the fourth quarter, it was all about that, primarily a bench unit. Plus, I know DiVincenzo's a starter now, but I think of him as, I don't know. He was a bench guy of last year. Like, it's the lineup with him and Naz, and now along with Bones Highland, with Ant off the floor, that did so much, that really got the Wolves all the way back into this game. And Jaden McDaniels was on the floor too. He was a big part of it. He was awesome in this game. And they were the ones, like big Donte threes, especially in the third. He finishes with 15 points, 5 made threes. Jaden McDaniels, 8 made buckets in this game, only made 1 3, but he had 8 field goals made. Bones Highland was huge in the first half. We'll talk more about that here in a bit, and kept the Wolves in it almost single-handedly early. And he was also good in the second half. As mentioned, good moments from Rudy Gobert. He was big on the glass in this game. It wasn't the best matchup for him with how fast the Raptors are and their bigs running the floor and the whole thing. But I thought he played pretty well given the circumstances. So those guys were the heroes that made this thing close. And then Anthony Edwards in the closing minutes was otherworldly. I mean, he had 3 steals in the final 3 minutes that essentially saved the game for the Wolves. He had a 3 that was like almost all the way in and then back out. Julius Randle gets a big offensive rebound. They end up scoring on the possession anyway because of the offensive rebound from Julius. But it was like bang, 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 like 3 steals in 3 minutes. Just an unbelievable stretch for Anthony Edwards. The first one was after he hits a tough 2. So the Wolves are now within 3 with just over 3 minutes to play. He gets a steal. Jamal Shed, who I really liked in the draft, by the way. I wanted the Wolves to get him in the second round. The Raptors got him. I talked a lot about him on the show last summer. He makes a terrible decision, tries to thread the needle in the open floor. Ant steals it. The Wolves come down, and Ant gets fouled. Actually makes his free throws. We'll talk about the free throw shooting. And then a couple possessions later, or the next possession is the one where Ant's 3-pointer goes like 3/4 of the way down, pops out. Randle gets the rebound, kicks it back out, and eventually Anthony Edwards gets a bucket on that possession. The Wolves actually go up 1 on that. And then after Ant misses a 3-pointer on the next possession with the Wolves again down 1, Ant steals the ball in the open floor and then gets a dunk in transition to put the Wolves back up by 1. Rudy gets the steal on the next possession, splits a pair of free throws, so now it's a 2-point game. And then after Ant misses another 3, actually, this happened twice. Ant got another 3. This is the one that went in and out. There were 2 possessions where Ant missed a 3. The Wolves get an offensive rebound from Julius Randle, and then Ant scores a 2-pointer. That happened here, so it's a 4-point game. Then Ant gets another steal that almost seals the game in the final 30 seconds or so, or final 20 seconds, with the Wolves up by 3. Ant gets another steal, leads to a dunk in the open floor from Jaden McDaniels, makes it a 5-point game. So 3 steals in the final 3 minutes. A couple of tough 2s, the turnaround jumper at the elbow after the Randle offensive rebound following the Ant missed 3, the layup that he made earlier with about 3 minutes to play after the first Julius Randle offensive rebound. On both ends of the floor, Ant was phenomenal in the final 3 minutes. And I'm going to talk about some of the issues in the first half, and the Wolves offense was sluggish. It was stagnant. They did score enough, like they scored 59 first half points. It was more about the defense, but the offense, like, it still has these moments where the ball just doesn't move enough, and Ant's the primary culprit there. Obviously, Julius Randle as well. But down the stretch, like, it's gone from, man, the offense is stagnant, to just let Ant do his thing. I mean, Ant was only 1 of 8 on 3s in this game, but he was 10 of 15 on 2s. And that included some tough mid-range jumpers that he knocked down. He got to the line a bunch, made enough of his free throws down the stretch, missed a couple that could have been, important if things had shaken out differently, but made enough free throws down the stretch. And I thought he got off the ball enough as well. As much as you want him scoring in the final minutes, he's still got to make the right basketball play. And I thought he largely did that. So this was the close to this game was mostly about the Anthony Edwards heroics, some great offensive rebounding from Julius Randle, a great defensive play by Rudy Gobert. There was also one really good Jaden defensive play mixed in there. It was a full team effort to get them back into the game. And Ant wasn't necessarily a major part of that, but he was the reason they took this thing from a 3-4 point deficit with a few minutes to play to ultimately a win down the stretch for the Wolves. Just superhuman, all-star, all-NBA caliber play in the final 3 minutes from Anthony Edwards. All right, I want to talk about some of the issues early in the game and both ends of the floor, really, and then we'll talk a little bit of trade deadline thoughts and get into individual studs and duds from this game. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want to hire someone who can help. I want to hire someone that has real experience who can jump right into the job. And that's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It'll help you save time because you'll spend less energy and less time sorting through mismatches. Plus, with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. Plus, here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get the job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. So still 3+ weeks to do that. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. The NBA trade deadline is here. It's today. We want to give you a free month of the new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. This is your last chance to get your free month. If you need a group chat to help you keep up with the chaos, join ours in Discord. We're all over everything in the Locked On Wolves channel in Discord. The Everydayer Club will get you access to this group chat on Discord just for Wolves fans, plus also national chats. You can hang out with fans from across the league. I am in all of the above, so be sure to jump in there and join the discourse today. Of course, being the deadline, whatever fallout from what the Wolves do and don't do, because there's going to be plenty of opinions, as you know. Plus, in addition to access to the Discord, you also get ad-free versions of this show. Plus, if you sign up by the trade deadline today, you can use the code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes or visit lockdownwolves.supercast.com to learn more. All right. A couple more notes on this game, especially in the first half, or regarding the first half. I talked about the close already. The Timberwolves, the defense was so bad early in this game. And it's so frustrating because there's all these stats out there about if the Wolves, basically if the Wolves aren't horrific defensively, they're one of the very best teams in the league. But when they're bad defensively, they're like the worst defense. And a lot of that is Rudy on off. But even with Rudy on the floor lately, some of the defense has been really bad. And by the way, in this particular game, individual plus minus, very noisy. The Wolves only had one player that was better than a +3. This player was a +11, and it was Rudy Gobert. And in the first half, you'd be like, man, Rudy can't run with these bigs for the Raptors. He can't run with the likes of Mamukilishvili. There, I got it. He can't run with these guys, right? Well, guess what? In the second half, he was essential. The Timberwolves' paint defense in the first half was terrible. They were like minus 15 or something paint points at halftime. The Wolves ended up dead even in paint points with the Raptors. Each team had 52 paint points when it was all said and done. Not great to be even with the Raptors in paint points in a game like this, but given how it started, I mean, Rudy Gobert is a big part of that second half defense. A lot of Rudy, a lot of McDaniels, really kind of shutting off the Raptors' water in the paint, shutting off those second chance opportunities that were so frequent in the first half. And I would say Rudy was part of the first half problem. Absolutely. I don't think anyone was really hustling back on defense. This is like one of the teams you absolutely cannot slack against in the open floor. The Raptors play at a fast pace. They're like second or third or something in fast break efficiency in the league this year. But their half court offense isn't great. So you just got to not be lazy, and you've got a shot. Well, they were lazy in the first half, and Gobert was part of it. McDaniels was part of it, and everyone was culpable here, right? But in the second half, it all flipped, and it's the frustrating thing that follows this team is in certain games they just don't try, and this is weird because the Raptors are a good team, and that's why I think the trade deadline, the shadow, as I've been calling it, I think is a relevant excuse because usually this is such a backwards thing, but usually these letdowns happen against bad teams. That's what we're used to seeing. The Wolves play to their competition for better or for worse, and it's one of the reasons why they've been to consecutive conference finals, why they, usually play the best teams very well. Like the only really good teams they've lost to this year, relatively close game to Denver. They lost a couple times to Phoenix, and obviously they're better than Phoenix. Christmas Day overtime loss to Denver. Like you go on down the list, the two losses to Lakers early in the season and the Knicks loss, I guess, would be probably the most excusable one. But even this recent losing streak, like the Antlers loss to Houston, the collapse against San Antonio and Ant scored 55 was bad. Those are good teams at least. But then like they lose to Utah, they lose to the Bulls, they lose to a shorthanded Warriors team, and then this most recent loss to Memphis. Like they haven't lost to good teams very much this year. It's maddening. And this game, the trade deadline is the excuse for how they came out early in this game. And now, post-trade deadline, whatever this team looks like less than 48 hours from now, and they return back to Target Center for the start of a long homestand against the Pelicans, it's the Pelicans. So is it going to be a party because there wasn't a trade and everyone's kind of laid back and relaxed and happy and they dominate the Pelicans on a Friday night? Or is it going to be more of the same of like, I tend to think if no trade happens, they win in a blowout on Friday. If a trade happens, say it's Giannis or even if it's not, if it's anybody, they're going to be shorthanded Friday. All bets are off. But I think if nothing happens, they win that game. It's just trying to figure out the psyche of this Timberwolves team is very hard. And then this matinee against the Clippers on Sunday, of course, they just made the trade with Harden and Darius Garland. So who knows what they look like by Sunday afternoon on the Sunday of the big football game as well. Like, what's that atmosphere going to be like at Target Center? Who knows? But trying to predict this team, it's mostly playing to their competition. That's what made the first half of this game so maddening is the trade deadline is the only excuse here. The Wolves should have played the Raptors better than this. They should have been geared up to play the Raptors because Toronto's good. No, they're not as good as really any of the teams in the Western Conference in the top six, but like they're a good team on their home floor. I would have expected the Wolves to be a little bit more ready, but the paint points were bad. The defense was bad overall. The transition defense was horrific. And thankfully, Bones Highland got hot in the first half. They made enough threes as a team. Donte had a couple mixed in there. Naz wasn't very good in the first half, but Naz Reid was phenomenal during the comeback in the second half. All that kind of worked together to ultimately allow the Wolves to pull out a win. Real quick. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's close with studs and duds, and I'll mention my brief. I'll kind of tease my trade deadline soapbox for tomorrow. I didn't really mean to bury this at the end of the show, but tomorrow I'll expand upon my mini soapbox that I got for today. So we'll do studs and duds. We'll do that. We'll talk about what's upcoming the next few days here on Locked On Wolves as we get you ready for the trade deadline. And the games don't stop. Games every other day between now and the All-Star break. So we'll talk about all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at FanDuel. It is the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. I love same-game parlays. Prop bets on Super Bowl Sunday is the best part about Super Bowl Sunday. If you're a new customer to FanDuel, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Again, bet just $5. You get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. Studs and duds from this one. This is funny because, honestly, I feel like 7 guys played well. And honestly, 7 guys who played at least 26 or more minutes. There's 7 guys that played 26 or more minutes. They all scored in double figures, and they all played well. The body of work. First half, really nobody did except for maybe Bones Highland. Second half, pretty much everyone did. The 2 guys that did not play 10 minutes, so the Mike Conley role, if you will, the 8th spot and the 7th/8th spot in the rotation was not good. So we'll start with studs. Yeah, I got to pick 3. I got to go Anthony Edwards because of the close. 30 points on 11 of 23. As I said earlier, though, he was just 1 of 8 on threes, but he was 10 of 15 on twos, which is a really nice number. You shoot 75% on twos at that volume. That's a nice game. And he had a couple of those tough mid-rangers in the fourth quarter during the comeback as they completed the comeback. And he had a couple big threes, or 1 big 3, I guess. And he, by the way, he airballed a 3 near the end of the comeback and got the airball, chance for the crowd. And man, Ant was very interested in letting the crowd know about his exploits after that. Every time he made a shot. I mean, Ant loves, we know the home road splits. He's a lot of times better on the road than he is at home, shooting the ball. He is, at least. And he was very happy to leave Canada with a win after the airball chance. He was 7 of 10 at the line. Another really strong, double-digit free throw attempt game. Still would like to see him shoot a little better from the line, but look, that's more of a team problem than an Ant problem. 8 rebounds. I thought he was really good on the glass in this game. He also had 5 assists, only 2 turnovers, and 4 stocks. 3 steals, all in the final 3 minutes. I went through those in the first segment. An awesome Ant performance, ultimately. First half, spotty, right? But 38, 5, 3 steals, only 2 turnovers. He was a -2. Most of the team was positive, except for Julius Randle. I talked about this earlier. That's just because this comeback happened with him off the floor. He was part of the problem in the first half. The stagnant offense. I didn't talk as much about that last segment as I meant to, but a lot of ISO ball, just a little too much of both Ant and Randle being like, all right, this is my possession. I mean, we go back and count. I bet Ant had at least 10 to 12 no pass possessions, where as soon as the ball's over the timeline with Ant in his ball in his hands, he's not passing it. Raptors gap help, loading up on him, effectively just it didn't even look like they were playing man-to-man anymore with how much they were loading up on Ant. I think he's still got to get off on the ball a little bit more often. In some games, he's better than others at that. And obviously, he's the reason they won in the final few minutes. So I'm nitpicking, but it's part of the reason they got down so much, right? Was some of that stagnant offense. I know the defense was a bigger problem, but the offense was not great. Jaden McDaniels, really good. 19 points on 13 shots. Only made 1 3 in this game, 1 of 3 outside the arc, 4 assists. I thought he was very good and deserves a stud in this game. I'm going to go 4 studs again. I did this the other day too. I'm cheating. Bones Highland has to be a stud. He was second on the team in scoring with 20 points on 8 of 12, 4 of 7 on threes. He hit 3 of his threes in the first half, and it was basically the reason this was only a 13-point deficit at halftime. He's the only guy that really looked like he came to play. He kept them in this game early. He also finished with 7 rebounds in this game. Jaden McDaniels, by the way, had 1 rebound in 40 minutes. And I realized I just gave him a stud, but 1 rebound in 40 minutes. Julius Randle had 4 rebounds in 36 minutes. Jalen Clark and Johnny Juzang combined to have 0 rebounds in 8 minutes. And Bones Highland had 7 rebounds in 26 minutes. If you want to talk about a guy who came ready to play, was competitive, and competed on both ends. And there is an argument for, I'm not making this argument, but like that is the position, that's the role on this team that they would love to upgrade. But if they don't, I talked about this a year ago when they signed Bones Highland to a 2-way deal, nearly 11 months ago. I said the reason you get a Bones Highland is if someone gets hurt or whatever, and you need a shot in the arm and somebody who can go nuts and score 20 plus, and you need it, he can do it. We've seen it a couple times, maybe not to the tune of 20 plus. I think he's done it a couple times, but he scored 20 in this game, and they needed that offense off the bench, especially in the first half. But he was good in the second half too. 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a couple of steals, and a block for Bones Highland. A very nice performance. A +3 off the bench, which is the second best plus-minus on the team, next to Rudy Gobert. And then my fourth and final stud is Naz Reid. 17 points on 6 of 13, 4 of 7 on threes. Was bad in the first half. I just think did not play well, but was essential in the second half. 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. No turnovers for Naz Reid, and 3 of his 8 rebounds were offensive, and he added a steal. Really nice performance for him. Jalen Clark, brutal first half stint. 6 bad minutes, or 5 bad minutes. He played a small defensive stint in the second half. And missed his only 3-point attempt, missed 2 free throws. I thought was just meh defensively. He struggled lately. It's crazy. Like, it feels like Chris Finch is losing patience with him. And sure, I mean, Johnny Juzang got the 2 minutes at the end of the third quarter instead of Jalen Clark and didn't look much better. Had a turnover, which really was, I think, more on Bones than him. And missed a little, like, 10-footer that he should have just kicked to the corner for an open 3 for Bones, but instead took a 10-footer and missed it. So neither Juzang or Clark played well, and Conley's gone and may or may not come back. We'll talk about this tomorrow on a, in the buyout market. Now that he's been traded a second time, they can do that. But like that rotation spot's open. And now is when Chris Finch loses trust in Jalen Clark and Johnny Juzang. I hear the Juan Berenger thing, and this, I guess, dovetails into my putting a bow on this. Clark and Juzang, both duds. Neither played well. People are mad about the Berenger thing. I get it, but also, I don't know. I still don't. I have a tough time getting too worked up about this because the front court, I'm on the record of saying I think they should play bigger more often, especially now that they know Berenger can play rotation minutes at the NBA level. Like, I think they should be playing 3 big lineups, like legit. They should. This was not the game to do that. Now, would this have been a better game for Berenger than Gobert? Yeah. Yes, it would have been. But you're not going to not play Gobert. You're not going to flip their minutes and play Gobert 10 minutes and play Berenger 30. You're just not going to do that. I think in general, I think the matchup matters, and which is why it is disappointing he didn't get to play in this game. But in general, Berenger should get on the floor, and the Wolves should play bigger. But if they're not going to play big, then who are you taking minutes from? Gobert was a +11 in 33 minutes. He was really good in the second half, made some really good plays. He made that great anticipatory steal in the final couple of minutes of the game. I mean, Randle, I thought was I don't think he was great in this game. I don't think he was quite dud worthy, but it was a kind of a second consecutive so-so game from him. Naz, you needed Naz's offense. Like, Berenger is a nice rotation player right now, but he's on the fringe of the rotation. If they don't make a significant move at the deadline, then yeah, I mean, like, you got to find a way to get him on the floor more often. I would agree with that. I'm going to soapbox a bit tomorrow. I don't want to say assuming. If the Wolves don't make a significant deal, it's not time to call for Tim Connolly's head. It's just not. We can't play revisionist history on the Gobert trade and be like, what a terrible trade. They've been in consecutive conference finals. It's not the finals. It's not a championship. But guess what? If they don't have Rudy Gobert, they probably don't go to either of those conference finals. And then what? You might have your draft picks you traded for Rudy Gobert, but you don't have Giannis wanting to come to Minnesota because this is a team that has been first round exited every year, most likely. Now, maybe now Anthony Edwards is ready to carry this team. And if Gobert's not on this, like if Gobert gets traded or whatever, Ant is now an all-NBA player. He wasn't 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when they 3.5 years ago when they acquired Gobert. He is now. It's a different version of the team around Anthony Edwards, which is something that Tim Connolly acknowledged pretty early on that would be a thing. Be different there was the early on the Jared Vanderbilt and Patrick Beverley iteration. There was the Karl Anthony Towns iteration, the transition into Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, and now Julius Randle instead of Towns. So like you're basically 3.5 different versions of Timberwolves teams around Ant, and they've been in the playoffs every year, and they've gotten to the conference finals twice. It seems like a pretty clear ascension for Anthony Edwards, and I don't have a major problem with the way that Tim Connolly has assembled this roster. And this is something we'll need to talk more about in the next couple of days. And even if a trade is made, assuming it's not Giannis, I mean, there's going to be people that drag Connolly for not getting Giannis, but like it takes two to tango, right? So I've got a lot more to say on that. We'll do that tomorrow. Of course, if the Wolves do make a trade, I'll do my best to get an emergency pod up as soon as possible. If nothing else, a 10-minute mini bonus episode at some point if the Wolves do anything. But if worst case scenario, tomorrow evening, we'll get up a show, at least one show, and also a regular show on Friday. So a lot to come here in the next couple of days. The Wolves are back home on Friday night to take on the Pelicans, who also could be active at the deadline. And then the matinee Sunday against the Clippers. So a lot coming up here in the next few days as we head closer to the All-Star break. But stay tuned to Locked On Wolves. We'll have you covered if anything goes down at the deadline. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder that if you never miss an episode, check out the Everydayer Club. It's built for you. Get Locked On Wolves ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com to join the club. If you're watching on video on YouTube, we'll send you after this to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. There's plenty to talk about nationally with the trade deadline today, Thursday. If you're listening on audio, make sure to make your second listen the NBA Game Night Show on Locked On NBA. Of course, Locked On Wolves is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.